I'm going to take you with a little journey here. I'm just bagging some milk, and I share these Zomi bags all the time, but I will admit that there was something about them that I didn't really realize until I was already like maybe 100 ounces in. When you open them up, they are pre-sterilized, so you can just pull off the tab, which is now sticking to me. Okay, one thing, don't blow in the bag. I see that often, and it drives me nuts, especially if you're a donor. You don't want to blow in the bag because you're just contaminating it. So I'd hate for you to be like under the weather, blow in the bag, fill it up with milk, and then prep it for your baby later on. Or, heaven forbid, you're a donor, you blow in the bag and then you prep it and send it off. Not really good combination. It's time for me to bag some milk, and I figured why not share it and talk about it while I'm doing it and give you a few tidbits to help you maximize your Zomi bags. And I just want to throw in there really quick, I used to use the Lanzino bags all the time, probably about 5, 6, 7,000 ounces worth of milk. I donated 5,000 ounces. The second time I was pumping, I stored hundreds, possibly 1,000 ounces or more with my multiples, and I didn't store any milk with my second singleton. And now here I am pumping again, and I have quite a bit of milk, and we're not going through it as quick, so I am storing it now. And I moved over to the Zomi bags because they're thicker. They are just more rigid, and so far, because I did use these the last time too, like just of like 100 ounces that I stored, which was really not very much in comparison to the others. So thawing that out, like leading up to the end of that breastfeeding journey, I never had any issues with these bags. With the Lanzino, I stored again, like truly like every bit of 7,000 ounces, and I didn't have a ton of leakers, but it was always a roulette. Like I didn't know what was going to happen. So my tip with that, if you're using Lanzino, or if you know that you just have a reputation of leaking bags, I always suggest to thaw them upside down, because it's always the bottom corner that is giving you trouble, that will leak. Now you might say, well, why the bottom corner? Why does the bottom corner leak? This is what I have concluded over the years of using them. When we make bricks, when we toss around our milk, it's always like the bottom corner is the one that gets the not neither either one, doesn't matter which, maybe both. But it just seems like those are the ones that get the most abuse, especially when you're making bricks, because you're packing it into a brick, and that last brick or that last bag in the brick always is a little more taut, and it just can scrape or nick that bag just enough to have a slow leaker. So with that being said, I would just, if you're thawing out Lanzino bags, I got in the routine of thawing them upside down. So the bottom was sticking out of the milk, out of the water, and then everything else was able to thaw going down. And then sometimes I'd have a leaker. I'm like, oh, I'm glad I thawed it upside down. But then eventually I switched over to the Zomi, and I've just had really good luck with them. Like I said, I really didn't freeze like hardly anything last time I pumped, but I did freeze a few bags. And I kind of regret not freezing more, because my breastfeeding journey kind of ended abruptly when I found out I was pregnant, and I was like, oh shucks, like I wish I had more milk in the freezer, but I just didn't. But everything that I did have frozen were in Zomi bags, and I can confidently say I had really great luck. So I like them because they can still freeze flat. They are much more rigid. I'm not worried about them nicking and leaking. I mean, they're significantly thicker than the Lanzino. So now I'm going to go ahead and bag some milk, and we'll show you what we do. This milk has been sitting in my refrigerator for about 3 days. And I say about because the date that I wrote on here is already gone. So I'm going to go with 3 days, because I know that I don't like to let my milk sit in the refrigerator for more than 3. So we're just going to go with that. You can see that there's a layer of fat in my milk. I have had moms tell me my mother-in-law scraped off the fat and threw it in the garbage because they said that it was a sign that the milk had gone bad. I am here to assure you that it is not a sign that your milk is bad. This is all the fatty nutrients that we want in our milk. So mix it back in. So if you find that there's separation, you can mix it back in with a clean utensil and just mix it in that way. Or what I like to do, and you can see it's quite fatty. It doesn't look very appealing, but I promise that it will go right back into the milk once it's mixed back in, and you won't even know it was there to begin with. So what I like to do is shake. All right, so really easily, I'm just going to go ahead and get my bags ready. So what I do is I have an idea of how much milk I'm going to be prepping. And then what I do, I'm not super crazy in particular. I do not mark the AM or PM milk. As you can tell, it's all in one mason jar, and that is a-okay with me. I will be honest, I have pulled this before, like, hey moms, have you noticed a difference if you've gone this route of separating your AM and PM milk? Because I know that like runs crazy once in a blue moon. Like maybe twice a year, you see it go crazy on Instagram or TikTok or whatever. Oh, everybody look at melatonin, woo! And then you're like, this was such a waste of my time. And honest to God, that is the information that I am getting from you that have actually tried that. It's very far and few between that someone says, no, it worked very well. Usually it's mom saying, it drove me nuts. My baby didn't sleep any differently when I mixed it or when I separated it. I'm not saying that there's no value to melatonin levels. I'm just saying it's not worth our mental health. That's all I'm saying with that one. So what I do is I just date the bag from the day it was collected. So right here, I'm going to go ahead. I think it's 8/19/2024, and I always prep in 5-ounce increments. So I don't even mark 5 ounces because I know it is 5 ounces. It's just what I do. And if it's going to be more or less, then I would make a notation. But it never happens. So they're pre-sterilized, rip off the tab that I just did. And what I'll say, again, do not blow in the bag. I'll just wiggle it around. I know it's kind of crinkly here. Ooh, I missed a bottle. So what I'll do is I'll pour my 5 ounces. And again, some people will weigh their milk. I'm sorry, I just don't have time for that. I will not do it. I refuse. So I just measure it in a bottle, and then I pour it in. And what I'll say about these Zomi bags, because this is truly what I want to share, make sure that the bottom opens up, that it's not collapsed, and make sure that it stands up. When it's standing up, you can close it up partially so that it's still open so the ear can remove. And I'll just pinch it just to get it ready to go on the countertop. And then I work the ear out. And when you have the bottom open, then you are getting truly all the ear out. When it's still collapsed and the milk is kind of funky, like the way the bag is going to lay, you're not going to get a nice flat lay. So you want to make sure it's collapsed, or I'm sorry, yeah, that it isn't collapsed, that it's not closed. You want to make sure that it's wide open, and then you can work it out, and you can see that there's no additional ear pockets inside. It lays nice and flat. When and if, let me try to do one as an example real quickly. I'll put 5 ounces in here, because then you'll see the difference, because you might be like, well, I don't really understand what she's saying. This is what I mean. So if I don't, and I keep my fingers from outside the bag too. Don't put your fingers in the bag. See how it's still closed? It's still pinched. If I put it in, oh, it opened up. Sometimes it won't. Sometimes it will. Oh, this one didn't open up that much. I'm going to try to close it. Now I'm going to try to close this just for an example. And now see how it's crinkled? Like I can't get that. Well, this one's not that bad, but when they don't open, sometimes it crinkles kind of hard and you can't get a nice flat lay. So you can still see it's not that great. But if I'm going to open it all the way up, make sure that the bag is nice and completely opened up, I guess. I keep saying the word open. Pull out the ear by working it on the side of the countertop. Pinch that side, and now you can see that it's flat. And this way, I can now freeze this in the freezer flat, and then I'll build my bricks from there. I will not freeze them on top of each other. I freeze them laying next to each other, but now they're nice and crinkle free, if you will. So I have found that that's the best way to do it. When I have frozen bags in the past and not realizing that I really need to open up that bottom of the Zomi bag so it stands up nice and tall, that is how I get the best flat bricks of milk to build a brick. So a 50-ounce brick of milk. All right, this is the easy part. So you can see that I freeze flat on a cutting board and then on a baking sheet. So what I'll do now is I look at the date. These are from 8/18 or 19, whatever. So I'm going to go ahead and just write that on the bag. And I'm going to say 8/19/24. And then I will put in here 50 ounces. And then I do number the bag. So I believe, and I'm not certain, let me look. Maybe I could figure this out. I have a 7 in here. So this is bag number 8. And I'll show you what I'm talking about in a minute. So this is bag number 8. This is going to be a 50-ounce bag. So what I was saying is I'll go ahead and I'll start down, and then the seal's gonna look up. So I alternate the bags so they just fit better. Again, there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then I kind of get them nice sitting up, and then this is my last bag to make a 50 ounce, and I just put it in there, and now you can see that it's up, down, up, down. So I alternate them. They just fit better with this kind of design. This is a 1 gallon bag, and now I have a 50 ounce brick. So I'm going to pop this in my freezer. I do have these, but this isn't a complete, this is only going to be 40 ounces, or I'm sorry, 20 ounces. All right, so I'll take that 20 ounces, I'll put it to the side, and I'll brick it when I'm ready for the next one. And you can see up, down, up, down. They stack really nice vertically. I bag and tag everything. So that's brick number 8, 50 ounces in each brick. That's the benefit to freezing in 5 ounce increments, because they just bag and they're just more easy to keep tabs on, and especially if you've got a surplus amount of milk that you're freezing. So that's it. That's how I bag and tag this milk. And now I'm going to go ahead and freeze what we just prepped. This is the milk that I bagged earlier, and all I'm going to do, I don't use anything fancy. There's definitely things out there that can help you freeze your milk more flat, but to be perfectly honest, for me, it's just not necessary. This works well for me. It's what I've been doing for years. I lay it in a cookie sheet. If I had more bags, I would take my cutting board, lay it over the baking sheet so it's sitting elevated, not on top of the milk, and then I would just stack here, and that's all I do. So I'll come back and I'll build a brick once that's frozen.